Hey folks, I hope that you guys are doing pretty well. So today is Saturday, the 30th of August, 2025. And today actually happens to be my birthday, so happy birthday to me. So anyway, I thought that I will continue on deciphering for you Isaiah chapter 49. Now last time we left on verse 14. So today I will continue on from verse 15 all the way to 26, okay? Now verse 15 all the way to 26, they're all millennial kingdom prophecies, as you shall see, okay? Now written down here using the King James Bible, what the prophecy actually reads from the King James Bible, okay? So in verse 15 it reads, "Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yeah, they might forget, yet I will not forget thee." Okay, so basically what Jesus is saying here in this prophecy is, he's posing a question by using Isaiah. This prophecy is asking the question, can a woman forget the child that she bore and not have compassion on the son of her womb? Jesus is saying here, I have created you, Israel, okay, from the womb, if you like, and I will not forget thee. Now, we all know as Bible scholars, the covenant that God has made with Abraham, okay? Now, before I proceed any further, you probably think to yourself, okay, God has made a covenant with Abraham and with Moses, and you will probably think that perhaps his prophecy is linked to those prophecies in Genesis and Exodus. Yes, they sure are, but the context here is actually, it's a millennial kingdom prophecy because it's following context from the previous verses, Basically what Jesus is saying to the nation of Israel, hey Israel, I'm not going to forget you because I'm the one that made you. I'm the one that bore you in the womb, if you like, okay? So God bore Israel from the womb, and God is not going to forget Israel. So therefore, Jesus is making a statement here saying, Israel, I have created you, and no, I'm not going to forget you when I come back for the millennial kingdom, okay? That's basically it in a nutshell, okay? And, of course, Jesus is trying to remind Israel of the covenants that he has made with Abraham, as per Genesis 12, 2 and 3. And on Genesis 12, verse 2, it reads, "And I will make thee a great nation, and I will bless thee." See also Genesis 17, verses 2 to 4. See also the covenant made with Moses, as per Exodus 24, verses 7 and 8. Note, this is a millennial kingdom prophecy. In view of context, if you like, I put a little periodical paper there. I should have written it down, but basically what I'm trying to say here is that this is a millennial kingdom verse, if you like, okay, verse in context, okay, of these prophecies, following, verse 15, following from verse 14 and so on, okay? So, just because God is reminding Israel that, hey, I made you in the womb by making a covenant with both Abraham and Moses, that doesn't mean that I'm going to forget you, that you are my child, I'm coming back for the millennial kingdom, okay? Now, verse 16, it reads, "Behold, I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands, thy walls are continually before me." So, this is following on, if you like, from verse 15 as another millennial kingdom prophecy. Not only is Jesus reminding Israel that, hey, I made covenant with Abraham and Moses, don't forget that, I made you from the womb, but also, behold, I have engraven you upon the palms of my hands, if you like, and the walls are continually before me. In other words, that Jesus is always looking after Israel. So for the commentary I put, Jesus is saying, I have made an inscription of you, Israel, in the palms of my hands. You are surrounded continually by me. That's what it means by, thy walls are continually before me. In other words, you are surrounded continually by me. So, generally speaking, yes, God has made a covenant with the nation of Israel and Abraham and Moses, but because this is a millennial kingdom prophecy, perhaps it's best linked with millennial kingdom prophecy that best matches his prophecy. And so for this verse, I think that the new covenant of peace in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 to 34, best describes the love, okay, and the graven inscription that God has for Israel. Now, the reason that I'm choosing Jeremiah's new covenant of peace, and this is exactly where it's going to be. When Jesus comes back for the millennial kingdom, it's actually going to be a covenant of peace with Israel. And it's not only in Jeremiah, but in other prophecies as well. So that's something that people need to remember. It's going to be a new covenant of peace. Now, the old covenant has not been broken like many Bible scholars think. No, instead, it's going to be a new covenant of peace. Now, the fact that I'm a prophet here proves that God still has a covenant with the nation of Israel. Because if God didn't still have a covenant with Israel, what on earth am I doing here as a prophet, prophesying to the nation of Israel? Exactly. So God still has a covenant with the nation of Israel, and I'm actually proof of that as a prophet. Now, I think that this Jeremiah 31, verses 31 to 34, this covenant of peace, actually links best with this verse 16, because God is saying, hey, I have graven thee upon the palms of my hand. In other words, I have made a covenant with you, okay? In other words, an inscription, okay? So I have made a graven thee upon the palms of my hand, meaning I have made a covenant with you, okay? Just like it says here in verse 15 with Abraham and Moses. So the fact that God has made a covenant, and I have graven thee upon the palms of my hand, you can best link it to this new covenant of peace, like it says here in Jeremiah, So that's my view on that. Now, verse 17, moving on then. Thy children shall make haste, thy destroyers, and they that make thee waste shall go forth of thee. Of course, this is a millennial kingdom prophecy, and they all are. Now, let me just get on to some commentary. The children shall make haste. This millennial kingdom prophecy is saying that as soon as Jesus arrives as the Redeemer to Israel, the Jewish people will make haste. In other words, the Jewish people will be attentive, okay, for the fact that Jesus has arrived on the scene. And so the fact that the children of Israel will make haste, this in itself will trigger many early millennial kingdom prophecies like Joel 2:1. As soon as Jesus arrives, the Jewish people are going to make haste. And one of the early prophecies is on Joel 2:1, blow you the trumpet in Zion. Exactly. This is the haste that the children of Israel are going to do. They're going to blow the trumpet in Zion, sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. Now, the second part of the prophecy that reads, thy destroyer and they that make thee waste shall go forth of thee. Of course, God is going to take care of them with his punishments. So this last part of the prophecy is about how Jesus will judge all those nations that have come to fight against Jerusalem in the valley of Jehoshaphat, as per Joel 3:2. Okay, he will gather them in the valley of Jehoshaphat, and Joel 3:12. See also Zechariah 14 verses 2 and 3, etc., etc. In other words, all the judgments of Jesus' prophecies that he's going to judge the nations in the valley of Jehoshaphat. Okay. Now note upward here, moving forward, even from this verse 17 and all the way to verse 26, these are all, okay, I put a circle, are all millennial kingdom prophecies. Okay. Now then, verse 18, lift up thine eyes round about, and behold, all these gather themselves together. Okay, we know where they are gathering. First of all, they're going to be gathering in Megiddo, in Armageddon, and come to thee. This is a millennial kingdom. So do you see how we are seeing that these are all millennial kingdom prophecies, in context? Because, the Jewish people will make haste, they're going to blow the trumpet and lift up thine eyes round about and behold, okay? So, let me just recap. Lift up thine eyes round about, and behold, all these gather themselves together, and come to thee. As I live, saith the Lord, thou shalt surely clothe thee with them all, as with an ornament, and bind them on thee as a bride does. So commentary I put down, in this prophecy, Jesus is asking all the Jewish people to awake and to look around how the nations of the earth are gathering in Armageddon, okay, as per Revelation 16:16, see? Lift up thine eyes round about, and behold, all these gather themselves together. Where is the first gathering before God brings into the valley of Jehoshaphat? The first gathering, according to Revelation 16:16, is in Armageddon, okay? That's where they're gonna gather themselves, okay? This also just prior activating the prophecies of Revelation 16:12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east, meaning China, North Korea, and India, because they're all next to one another, these are the kings of the east, might be prepared. So just to stop right here now, so just prior to this Revelation 16:16, like I put here, we're going to be seeing Revelation 16:12 take place. In other words, that the river Euphrates is going to dry up, so that the kings of the east, China, North Korea, and India, might be prepared, okay? This then afterwards activates Joel 3:2, the judgment of God in the valley of Jehoshaphat, plus all the other judgment prophecies like Joel 3:12, Revelation 19:15, all the way to verse 21, etc., etc., okay? Now, the second part of the prophecy, it reads, as I live, says the Lord, thou shalt surely clothe thee with them all, as with an ornament, and bind them on thee as a bride does. So basically in here, Jesus is saying, as I live, you Israel, who have the power to overcome all the nations, okay, and bind them as a bride does, okay? That's basically what it's saying, that you Israel, with the power of Jesus, will overcome all the nations, Jesus is going to do all the work for you, and then you will overcome all the nations. Commentary, think of it as it says in Deuteronomy 28:13, and the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, exactly. So this is also a prophecy for the millennial kingdom. This Deuteronomy here, 28:13, is happening right now, okay? And then, of course, during Daniel's 70th week, it's going to die again, but not entirely. It will die completely at the beginning of the second half of the tribulation with the abomination of desolation. But then, when Jesus returns for the millennial kingdom, then this prophecy will come alive again, This is actually a multi-dispensational prophecy, okay? So this is a prophecy, this Deuteronomy 29:13. It's a prophecy with a millennial kingdom application as well, okay? Verse 19, for thy waste and thy desolate places and the land of thy destruction shall even now be too narrow by reason of the inhabitants, and they that swallow thee up shall be far away. So basically, from my commentary I got down the first part of the prophecy where it reads, for thy waste and thy desolate places and the land of thy destruction shall even now be too narrow by reason of the inhabitants. Even though there will be a lot of waste and desolate places in Israel, as a result, especially what's going to happen during the second half of the tribulation period, okay, especially after the abomination of desolation, Jesus is going to restore the land of Israel again, like Eden, when he comes back for the millennial kingdom, like he says in Isaiah 51:3, for the Lord shall comfort Zion, he will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, okay, that's complete restoration, and her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. So, the Jewish people will be very happy. They will be giving thanksgiving to God and the voice of melody. That's happiness there. So the part of the prophecy that reads, "And they that swallow thee, up shall be far away." Of course, when Jesus performs his judgments in the valley of Jehoshaphat, okay, those people's souls will be far away in hell for all eternity, okay. Think of Zechariah 14:12. The flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet. Okay, just paraphrasing here, making it short for you. Okay. Think also what Jesus said in Matthew 10:28. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to both kill soul and body in hell. Okay. Now think also of Isaiah 51:8. And also think of Isaiah 63:6. Okay. That you can link this verse with these prophecies. Okay. Verse 20, the children which thou shalt have after thou hast lost the other shall say again in thy ears, the place is too straight for me, give place to me that I might dwell. Commentary, the future children of Israel, or the generation, okay, that will grow up during Jesus' millennial kingdom, will eagerly await to have a place of their own when they will witness the abundance in Israel during the millennial kingdom, okay? Because basically the children which thou shalt have, okay, in other words, the future children that you, Israel, will have when Jesus comes back for the millennial kingdom, because you're going to lose a lot during the second half of the tribulation period, due to the abomination of desolation. And if you read, of course, Luke chapter 21 verses 20 to 24, many people will die, and will be taken prisoners to many parts of the world. So the children which you shall have in the future when Jesus comes back for the millennial kingdom, and Israel will grow as a nation, the population will grow, if you like, after thou has lost the other, of course, during the tribulation period, especially in the second half, shall say again in thy ears. They're going to say, this place is too dry for me, They're going to say, give place to me that I might dwell. In other words, give me room to move. The children will be saying, there is just so much abundance now in Israel. This place is too dry for me. There's just too much, So, they're gonna this new generation during the millennial kingdom will grow up during the Jesus' millennial kingdom, will eagerly await to have a place of their own when they will witness the abundance in Israel during the millennial kingdom. Okay, this prophecy is well linked to Isaiah 54 verse 2, in which it says, enlarge the place of thy tent. Exactly, enlarge the place of a tent. What are the future children of Israel saying? Hey, this place is too dry for me. We need to enlarge the place of our tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thy habitations. Okay, spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes. Perfect prophecy here, Isaiah 54:2, for the future children of Israel, which are saying, this place is too dry for me. Okay, well, very well then, Jesus is saying, enlarge the place of thy tent. Okay, see also Isaiah 54:13, in which Jesus will instruct the children of Israel to expand their horizons. That's right, even Jesus will have a sign to make sure that the children of Israel expand their horizons. It also links to Psalm 128 verse 6, and also Zechariah 8:5, in that the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets thereof. This is an indicator that Israel will have a thriving generation of children growing up in Israel. See also Jeremiah chapter 30 verse 20. Now, this prophecy in Zechariah 8:5, in that the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets thereof. Of course, it links to this verse, because the children which thou shalt have, was the next generation after thou hast lost the other, of course, sadly during the tribulation period, especially the second half. Okay. Now verse 21, then shalt thou say in thy heart? Who hath begotten me this, seeing I have lost my children, and am desolate, I captive, and removing, removing to and fro. And who has brought up this? Behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. So basically, it's quite a long prophecy here with many parts to it. So from my commentary I got down, this is an amazing prophecy of hope for the Jewish people, okay? And it's a prophecy that is extremely well connected to Isaiah chapter 60, verses 3 and 5. Verse 5 in Isaiah 60 reads, the forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. So if the forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee, quite clearly the prophecy, you can link it up with this verse, because he's saying, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, okay, and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. Exactly, because it's linked to Isaiah 60, verses 3 to 5, and on 5 it says, the forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. See? So God will make sure that the Gentiles serve Israel. There is even a prophecy about this in Isaiah 60, verse 12. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. So the Gentiles will be forced to serve Israel, okay? So now these promises are true, and so according to Isaiah 43, verse 6, the Gentile nations will have to help the Jewish people return back to the homeland Israel. Okay, so see also Isaiah 43, verse 6. All right, now let's get on to verse 22 then. Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring thy sons in their arms, similar to verse 21 here, okay, and thy daughters shall be carried upon the shoulders. Commentary. So these prophecies are well linked to the prophecies that I mentioned on verse 21, especially Isaiah 60 verse 5 and Isaiah 43 verse 6, okay. Now verse 23, and kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and the queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face towards the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. So for my commentary right down, this millennial kingdom prophecy reminds me of Isaiah 60 verse 12. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Okay, so of course here we got a bit of poetry going on. The kings shall be, and kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and the queens thy nursing mothers. Of course, if you think a little bit about this poem, God is making sure that, according to Isaiah 60 verse 12, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Okay. You can also link this prophecy to Psalm 25 verse 22, and it reads, redeem Israel, O God, out of all his troubles. So if this millennial kingdom prophecy here in Psalm 25 verse 22, it says here, redeem Israel, O God, out of all his trouble, this prophecy is already indicating, okay, that Jesus will do whatever it takes to help Israel, even using other nations to bless Israel, okay. This prophecy is also linked to Psalm 47 verse 3, and it reads, he shall subdue the people under us. Okay, so Jesus is going to subdue the people under us, and the nations under our feet. So this is also millennial kingdom prophecy. So do you see here this subdue? God is going to make sure that kings and queens, are nursing and doing everything that they need to do to help Israel, because otherwise Isaiah 60:12 will be a reminder for them, for the nation and kingdom, that will nurture thee shall perish. Okay, so that's quite clear there. Now then, verse 24. Shall the prey be taken from the mighty, or the lawful captive delivered? Commentary. This prophecy is asking the question, shall the prey, meaning Israel, of course, especially during the second half of the tribulation period, be taken away from them, the hidden nations, or the lawful is Israel, which is captive, be delivered, So basically, from a commentary, this prophecy is asking rather the question, shall the prey Israel be taken away from them, the hidden nations, or the lawful Israel captive be delivered? This verse, even though it's proposing a question, is in fact triggering all those early millennial kingdom prophecies about judgment, okay? Because God is going to be delivering the Jewish people because they are lawful under his eyes, because all these people have come to fight against Israel in Jerusalem, okay? And so, of course, Jesus, is going to be against all those nations that in the future will come to fight against Jerusalem. Think of Jeremiah 30, verse 11. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee, though I will make a full end of all nations. Okay, he's going to deal with them. Whither I have scattered thee, yet I will not make a full end of thee. Sadly, of course, I will not make a full end of thee. Jesus will restore the Jewish people, but we know that according to Zechariah, 1/3 will make it through, but anyway, see also Jeremiah 30, verse 16, therefore, all that devour thee shall be devoured, okay, and all thy adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. Thank God. So God is gonna, give justice, okay? And thy spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee I will give for a prey, etc., etc. So do you see how this Jeremiah 30, verse 16, it says here, and all that prey upon thee I will give for a prey. And look what it says here in verse 24 at the beginning, shall the prey Israel be taken away? Okay, so, if Israel is the prey, then God is saying here in Jeremiah, therefore all thy that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thy adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity, and that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee, okay, I will give for a prey. So Israel might be prey, but God will give them for a prey. In other words, that God is going to judge them, Now verse 25, but thus saith the Lord, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contended with thee, meaning Israel, and I will save thy children. Okay, so now commentary. The captives of the mighty equals Israel. Okay, so even the captives of the mighty, that's Israel, sadly, in the second half of the tribulation period. So the captives of the mighty equals Israel will be released, and the prey, meaning Israel, okay, of the terrible, Israel shall be delivered. Okay, as per verse 24, this prophecy is well linked to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 16. And all that devour thee shall be devoured. Okay, you can also link this prophecy with Jeremiah 31, verse 11, and it reads, for the Lord hath redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him. That's the Antichrist, because in the King James Bible, the italics or the print of him are in special letters, and that makes him the Antichrist, okay? So this Jeremiah 31:11, this him is actually the Antichrist himself, because it reads, for the Lord hath redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him. That's the Antichrist that was stronger than he. Of course, the Antichrist, Leviathan, the second Antichrist, the son of perdition, okay? You can also link this verse with Psalm 10, verse 15, and it reads, break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Okay, that's also the Antichrist, because it's on special font or special italics if you like. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man, that's the Antichrist. Seek out his wickedness, okay? To thou find none. This is going to happen during the millennial kingdom when God breaks his arm. See also Psalm 11 verse 6, etc., etc., okay? Now the last verse here, and it reads, and I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh. Okay? And they shall be drunken with their own blood. That's going to be the punishment. As with wheat wine, exactly. And all the flesh shall know that I'm the Lord, exactly, and thy Savior, and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. Of course, this is you couldn't get more of a millennial kingdom prophecy than this one. Commentary. The most perfect prophecy to link this verse with is with Zechariah 14:12. It couldn't be more perfect, you know. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. The flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in the holes, and the tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Okay, so you couldn't get a prophecy more perfect. So that, you know, I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh. Okay, and they're gonna be drunk in their own blood. So, you know, this is gonna be the plague, you know. The flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes. You couldn't get a better prophecy in Zechariah 14:12 to match it with this verse 26, okay? Now you can also look into Psalm 149 verse 7, okay? 149 verse 7, and it reads, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, exactly like this one here, and punishments like here upon the people, exactly. Alright folks, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.